Marjorie Knight, it's so good to see you again. We've had this conversation many
We have.
times. Yes, and we've had lots of conversations, and it's great to see you once again dropping your sword and saying, yes, let's go out and hunt down some votes and try and get elected to do good things. Because I know you, and I've known you for a long time. Your heart is as big as they come, and it's really about doing things for the community because of your past experiences and what you've lived.
Yes.
And how you lived homeless. And so you
did.
understand the needs of people, and I think that's what people need to understand. So, Marjorie Knight, you're running for the new Democratic ticket in the city of Cambridge, actually the Cambridge riding, which also includes North Dumfries.
Yes.
So I know you've recently had knee surgery. Good luck trudging through the fields out in North Dumfries. I hope you enjoy that.
Let me tell you, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, what drives Marjorie Knight to give like this? Other than, I know your past experience, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about that for the viewers, but what really drives Marjorie Knight?
If I even go right back to the beginning, Greg, when I first came to Cambridge, I actually was viewing 5 different cities within an hour of Toronto, trying to decide where I would move my family to. And Cambridge was my either second or third stop. And the people that I met here were so wonderful, friendly, helpful. Way helpful. Way out of bounds of what you would expect. And I said, this is my place.
Yeah.
This is where I will bring my family, and this is where we will live. And I literally left here, went home, resigned my job, packed up, and came back.
Wow. What a great story.
That's what it was, because the people had such an effect on me to say that, you know what, this is a community that I can plant myself in and grow my family here. And so I came. And along the way of things often being difficult, there was a period of time when I was homeless, as you mentioned. But the people that rallied around me was incredible. I would tell you, I was working the entire time I was homeless. I was working. And it's not an easy thing living in a shelter, let me tell you. I was staying at that time at the Bridges, because at that time it was co-ed.
Yep.
And every day they would pack me a lunch and I would go off to work in Kitchener. I would come back and they would have kept dinner for me, and they would have it warmed up and ready for me. They would give me 10 minutes to just really decompress before I went to bed, because by the time I got home, everybody was already in. And they did their best that they could. And there were people in the community themselves who were helping me. Because when you think about this, right after I was homeless, I went back to school.
Yes, I remember that part of the story too.
I went back to school.
Yeah.
I went to University of Waterloo, and I did a bachelor's in social work. And I remember signing up and being accepted. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, I can't pay for this. I did not have the money to pay for that first semester.
Wow.
And this couple that goes to my church were sitting with me, and they were saying, oh, so you applied for school? I'm like, yes, but I can't go. And they said, what do you mean you can't go? I said, well, I don't have the money. They literally wrote a check for me and put it down and says, you're going to school.
See, that's community.
And I used to come home, and there would be a box of food on my stairs.
Wow.
There would be grocery cards on my stairs. There was a woman who would drive me to work, because I was still working 44 hours a week. She'd drive me into work, and if she had time, she'd drive me into school. All kinds of people. There was this grandma who was raising her grandchildren who would give me $50 every month towards my bus pass.
Wow.
These are the people of Cambridge.
Yeah.
These are people who care. And how could I do less than serve.
Good point. You know, we've often said that when we refer to children, we say it takes a village, but it takes a village to help one
Yes.
another.
Yes.
That's what a village is all about. That's why we congregate in villages. And we don't move out and stay away from people. We stay close to people because we need each other.
We cannot survive if we don't live in
Yeah.
community. And it has to be the whole community.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start dropping people off,
Yeah.
then you're missing things. And you won't even realize what you're missing until.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not have use for this person until you need what they can provide.
Yeah.
So community is very
So,
important.
so back to the reason why you chose Cambridge. I would tell you this. If you were coming to this community, you were looking at a place and you ran into me and said, why should I move to your community? I'd say there's one major reason. We are a former amalgamation of Galt, Preston, and Hespeler. And believe it or not, over 50 years ago that happened, and we still embrace Galt, Preston, and Hespeler.
But I will tell you, when I arrived at the airport that first time, and I got into this taxi guy, and he says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Cambridge. Because on the website, everything, it says Cambridge.
Correct, yes.
And the guy goes, where?
Oh, really?
He did not know where that was. This is in Toronto Airport. He did not know where it was.
Wow.
And so I'm explaining to him, and then I showed him. He goes, oh, you want to go to Hespeler? I'm like, okay.
Whatever.
So he brought me to Hespeler, and I never left Hespeler.
Yeah. But you know, it's something that I think that's what makes our community. It makes our community real because we embrace the where we all came from.
Yes.
You know, we embrace our past. We don't hold a grudge anymore about it.
Much.
But not much. But we still love the fact, like I'm a Preston guy, right? So I always say that I'm the neutral guy from Preston. It's Galt fights everybody and Hespeler fights everybody, but Preston's a neutral guy.
I don't know that we fight.
Not
in
fight.
Hespeler.
Not
but
fight.
I will say, though, that when rubber hits the road, we stand as one.
Oh, we do. Yes, we do.
You know, it's like siblings. You know, you can't poke one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Speaking of that, poking one, we got somebody poking us right now. The President of the United States, he's not just poking Canada, he's poking the whole rest of the world. But as a result of that, the Premier of the province, went to the Lieutenant Governor and asked that they dissolve Parliament in the province of Ontario and let's have an election, and because he needs a 4-year mandate to stand up against the tariffs or whatever actions that are going to come from the President of the United States. So when we talk about tariffs and things that would encumber our economic well-being, unification and standing together is going to be very, very important. How do we tackle that when there's so much divisiveness in the political framework today?
And that is a symptom of our problems in this country. I think we have forgotten what politicians are supposed to do. I think we have forgotten that the reason we're there is to serve. The reason why we're there is to look for the well-being of the country. Mm-hmm. I kind of smiled when dear Mr. Ford talked about needing a mandate, which he already has for another 18 months, to deal with tariffs. And I kind of, very facetiously said, oh, I didn't know he was running for prime minister. Because the thing is that this is the purview of the federal government. Having said that, there is no way that we're all going to get out of this unless everybody comes together. But everybody has to come together in a serious manner with a goal.
Yep.
Say, this is what we need as a country. How will we do this? Mm-hmm. Who has what part to play?
Yep.
But it has to come. We can't be bickering and posturing and, I'm going to take my ball and go home because you're not playing my game. Mm-hmm. This is not a game for a province at this point. It's a game for a country because we are all going to be affected by this. So people have to put on their big boy pants and they're going to have to sit together, and they're going to have to figure this out. No one province can do it alone.
No, no, I would agree 100%. And it's kind of like, even when we talk about some of the symptomatic problems within the province of Ontario, working together is really where we're going to get the best bang for our buck
Yes.
as a taxpayer is concerned.
Yes.
And, as an individual that sits out here in the world of business and community to a great degree, I worry about that. And I worry about the coming together of the Parliament of the day and Queen's Park as well, that we need to have strong voices there that unite us rather than divide us.
Absolutely. At this point, it really doesn't matter what color you are, what color
No.
stripe you are.
No.
If you wear an orange bow or a green bow,
No.
we have to work together.
Yeah, I think we're at a crossroads. I think, there's been a lot of talk about, why have we put so much dependency on the United States? Why have we thought that the United States would forever and ever and ever be our very best friends that we could rely on? We're a separate country. We have our own sovereignty. We have relationships all around the world where we don't need to just do business with the United States. We can do business with everyone.
And we already know the fickleness of the
Oh,
United
yes,
States.
yes, we do.
We
Yes.
already know. But I mean, then it comes back down to local things, and we're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We get, how much percentage of our food do we get from the United States?
Yeah.
And we're selling farmland. We're selling grade A, not to be replaced, farming land that can grow food. Because, hey, man, we can just import. It's coming more and more clear to us every day. And this has been being said for the last 10, 15 years, that we need to grow food and we need to be able to shop within 100 miles of where we live.
Right. Or maybe even less. The catchphrase now for communities is 15-minute community, right? Where you can walk and shop and do the things you need to
Exactly.
do right in the community.
And here we are.
Yeah. Well,
One of the things I loved about the region of Waterloo was that we had that. We had the boundaries that this is where our farmland is, this is where our green belt is, this is not to be touched because this is our water. We don't drag water from the lakes. We have the good stuff.
yeah.
We have the farms, we have the water, let's protect it. And now,
Yeah. Well, it's. I still don't think we have as big issues as they have in the United States, but
Thank the Lord.
but we have. I think we have the ability to deal with that. Campaigns are really about big issues. And from the Chamber of Commerce perspective, we really look at it from a holistic perspective on a community value basis. Simply because all 4 cylinders in the community need to be running at the exact same pace in order for us to get the things done that we need to get done. So when I look at our healthcare needs, our housing needs, our food insecurity needs, all of those kinds of things, I look back to where do we get the resources to fuel those solutions? We get the resources from a strong economy. I tell every politician that comes in here, I tell them all the time, you can't spend any money unless there's a business transaction.
okay.
Because it takes a business transaction to produce taxes that go to the government for the government to spend on solutions to our problems.
Okay.
So building a strong economy is really important. How will you, along with the NDP government and Merritt Stiles, your leader, build that strong economy so that we can fix the problems that we have?
Other side of it, I will flip over with you now. It's if I don't have anybody to buy what you're selling, what are you going to sell? If I don't have the money to purchase, where are you going to sell? So we have a two-sided problem. We want strong businesses. We want people to innovate Because, I mean,
And
the
create,
businesses
yeah.
that are coming up today, back when we were young, we couldn't even imagine that.
No.
They were not on our radar. And this continues. We have a fabulous young population coming up with minds that are seeing things that we have never even thought of. But if they can't sell it,
Yeah.
if they don't have savings to be able to put in there to develop it, where are we? So we need to also look at the point that what people are able to make to look after themselves, to be able to have purchasing power, to be able to develop things, is sadly lacking. We have not given our people the ability to even pay rent. Food
Yeah.
insecurity is high because we just don't have the money to purchase it. So yes, we need strong business, but we also need a base
Yes.
that is going to provide.
Well, a rising tide floats all boats, right? And that's really what we
Yeah.
need to do. We need to build from the bottom up
Yes.
as well. There's
Yes.
no question about that.
Yes.
Speaking of building from the bottom up and building, in particular, the premier came out a year and a half ago, I guess, and said he wanted to build 1.5 million homes in 10 years. That would be a pace that would outpace construction in the province of Ontario for all of history. We've never been able to build homes. In fact, it's about double what we have normally built. Now, we know the government can't do all of that. It needs the private sector to come along and help too. Because the private sector needs to build some housing. If you were to have the province borne all of the load to build 1.5 million homes, that's all it would be able to do is build those homes, nothing else. So we know it's going to need the private sector, but the private sector is sitting there saying, well, we can't do it because there's no market. They don't have a market because built into their construction projects are so many cost factors that before they even put a bulldozer on a piece of property, they've spent $170,000 on a condominium. How do we get around all of those costs?
The model that we look at when we build is very interesting. Because when I look around at what we're building, luxury townhouse, condos, million stories buildings,
Yep.
millions of dollars to own. We have so many empty ones these days because people have bought them, but no one can afford to rent them.
Yep.
Or they're foreign bought and sit empty. So what are we doing wrong with that? And I will tell you that the solutions are there and they have been working really well, even though on a small scale. We have so many churches in our communities who have looked around at their churches and said, you know, we have a dwindling congregation. We take up all of this space and we could donate this land and build truly affordable housing.
Yeah.
Now, I hate the term affordable housing because I end up having to say every time affordable
I don't
for
use that.
whom?
I say housing that's affordable.
It's affordable for whom?
Well, I just say it's housing that's affordable. Whoever might want one.
So, and right now we're building all kinds of things that
Yeah.
are not affordable for people. So these churches have done that. They have partnered with people like Induel. Induel is very busy in our community right now because they have a way of building that is a nonprofit way. So it becomes they are the builders of nonprofit housing, of co-ops, of apartment buildings for supportive housing.
Yeah.
This is a model that we can use. Induel can't be the only company that does that. Other people can model what they're doing. We have public lands that we could use. The biggest part and problem of building today with the costs that these builders have is it buying the land.
Yes. Yeah.
It is incredibly expensive.
Yep.
Well, if we were using public lands for these things, that cuts out a whole lot of the cost. And then we can do deeply
Yep.
affordable housing. We can do co-ops, which we know work. We can do supportive housing. We can do senior housing. You know, it's something that we have to come to terms with, and we have to change the model that we're looking at.
Yep.
Because the number of people that are homeless today is awful. And we're generating homelessness.
Yes.
So I had a friend who, she and her husband live in a condo, and they raised their rent by $1,000 a month one time.
Wow.
And I was horrified. But then I have people who are on ODSP, and they raised their rent by $400 one time. Where did they get $400 from?
You can't go ask for a raise.
So I have families that are going homeless. And the thing is, we have a perception in our minds. I heard somebody write the other day, 99% of people who are homeless are addicts. And I'm like, no, they're not. That's the little tip of the iceberg that you see.
Yeah.
The majority of the people that are homeless are not addicts. And they don't have a mental health problem. But I will tell you, from the stress related to being homeless, that if you stay out there long enough, chances are it's going to happen because it's overwhelming.
Yeah. You know, when I got first elected in 1991 to Cambridge City Council, Mike Farnan was NDP. Actually, it was the NDP government was in power at the time, and Mike Farnan was I can't remember what his position was at the time, but at that time, and it wasn't an NDP initiative; it was actually a Liberal initiative from the previous government. They had created a program called the non-profit housing authorities, and so we have a number of them in our community, and they were really, I think, a wonderful model. And I can remember Mike Farnan coming to. He actually, just before he passed away, we'd met somewhere, and he said, "You know, I'll always remember you standing beside me and supporting that initiative way back when," and it was because it made common sense to me.
Yes.
It was the provincial government offering a no-interest loan to a nonprofit housing cooperative who would build a complex, maintain it, create a board of directors from within, would have it divided by 3, so it would be subsidized housing, it would be, supportive housing, and then it would be free market rent, whatever it was, and it would integrate people into the setting together, which would, when they see somebody pull in with a BMW and drive in because they're paying market value rent, it would inspire people to say, I think I can do better because my neighbor does better, right? And I thought, what a wonderful thing. And the whole idea was they would pay that loan back through rents. And then once that loan was paid back, then they would take that money that they were generating monthly from rents, and they would go out and create another one. And it would be self-sustaining after they did one nonprofit housing authority. It would be self-sustaining. I don't know why that ever went away.
Isn't it a wonderful question? Because we then decided that it should go private.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense to me.
And then it killed it, because what we see today for private housing, they're buying the land, which causes so much speculation, but they're buying the land, they have all the fees, they have all the things, and they're building luxury. They're not building affordable.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So,
I think that's a wonderful plan. I think if you get elected and you get in there, you need to push for nonprofit housing cooperatives, because I think that could potentially be a solution to our problem.
I am very, very strongly pushing. We need the co-ops. We need those kinds of levels of housing that incorporates everybody. And we need to use the lands that are available to us, that are already ours, so that we're not trying to spend millions upon millions to buy a piece of land. to build affordable housing on. And we can do it. But again, political will
Yes.
and people. But it is, we can't continue in this way. How do you work? How do you go to work if you have nowhere to live? You have nowhere to bathe, to clean your clothes, to be able to focus on a job.
Yeah.
You have to have somewhere
Thankfully,
to live.
I don't know the answer to that question.
But
It's terrible.
I have people right now who have literally farmed their children out, and they're living in their cars, and they buy a gym membership so that they can shower and go to work.
Wow.
This is the state of what we're in.
Mm-hmm.
There are a legion of homeless people out there who are trying to work
Yeah.
and save to try and get on their feet with their family again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost impossible.
Yeah. What's the big focus for the NDP this time around?
I think it's housing. It's housing. It's making sure that we get back into the business of making sure that we're making partnerships that can build housing, for supportive housing for seniors, for all of that we just talked about. That is the main focus.
Yeah.
I mean, we're also looking, of course, at our healthcare because, my word, closing down of emergency rooms. But you know what? I remembered one of the biggest memories I have is Kathleen Wynne standing up in 2018 and proudly stating that we in Ontario have the least cost per capita for healthcare in Canada. And she was so proud. And I think I heard somebody spouting the same thing again.
Yeah.
So the Liberals started this thing, and the Conservatives have carried it on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're paying for it. We're paying for it. So much of our money is going into privatization and sending people to private clinics to do all these other procedures. And meanwhile, our hospitals are not funded enough to have enough nurses.
Yeah.
When I had my heart attack, I stayed in Emerge for 3 days because they didn't have anywhere to put me.
Wow. Yeah,
They didn't have a bed.
And we've got a doctor shortage. As you know, the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce does physician recruitment for primary care physicians in town. And, it's a struggle for us. What's interesting is, maybe a little bit of the good news about Donald Trump is we do have American doctors looking to move to Canada.
Oh, I'm sure.
Which maybe could be a help to us from that perspective. But here's where the big problem is. And I think it was Bonnie Crombie who came out and she promised in the next 4 years that she was going to have every Ontarian that didn't have a family doctor would have a family doctor. Problem is there's not enough residency spots to create. You can't. You know what? You can't just have somebody walk down the street and say, "Hey, you want to be a doctor? Come on over here." You can't do that.
But we don't think. But my sister is a marvelous. She's a pediatric pulmonologist. Fabulous. She is world renowned. She does amazing things. When she was a resident, she came to Canada, and she did her residency at Sick Kids. Well, Sick Kids wanted to keep her. They wanted her to stay. And she was willing to stay. And the government says, well, if she wants to stay, she has to go and work in Nunavut for a year.
Yeah.
You ever see a Jamaican in Nunavut?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
So she left. I mean, there were all these hospitals all across the world wanting her to come. And she was happy to stay in Canada and stay at Sick Kids. She loved it there. But they made it so difficult for her. And if we're looking at residencies, this is where we should be recruiting internationally.
Yeah.
Because then they're coming into the system, they're doing their residency, they're doing their boards here. So we know that they're properly qualified. Whereas I met a gentleman who was the head of the teaching hospital in this country for surgery. And he came here and basically they told him he would have to do his entire medical career
Yeah,
again.
I know.
If you are heading up a hospital,
Yeah,
what is that?
yeah, I know. I can remember
We make it too hard.
Perrin Beatty, the head of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, just retired last August, but he used to always say, one of his favorite lines was, if you're going to have a heart attack, you're probably better to have it in a cab in
Yes.
Toronto. You know, chances are that you're going to have a heart specialist driving the cab. So, you know, we got to do something about that. That's really where we have to focus some energy, I think.
I still say if you made people do exams, then you would know where they were at.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you could say, okay, you know, you need to go back into a residency, or no, you have to start from the beginning, or, you know.
And kind of when it comes
you
to
can work
surgery,
with someone to.
when it comes to
do that.
surgery, once you cut the skin open, and everybody's exactly the same inside, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't understand that. And it's confusing to me. I'm sure there's good reason for it. I worry a little bit that maybe the OMA is a little bit of a block there, but who knows?
But that's why you can give people exams. That's why you can
Yeah, for
you
sure.
can investigate their knowledge.
Yeah.
That is why you can possibly pair them with
Yes.
doctors in the system that they have to work with them for a certain amount of time, and then do another exam to show that yes, you meet the standards. We're ridiculous when in the way that we do this. We have so much experience and doctors, and they're working as taxi drivers and pharmacy technicians.
Yeah, I know.
One thing I wanted to tell you about, though, I went to the School of Architecture,
Yes.
and they have a suite, I think they call it, where the students envision what they would build.
Right.
And they gave them different areas within our region to say, how would you in-build this?
Yes.
What would you do? I was blown away
Really.
by what they came up with. And so when I think about the future of how we will build and what it will look like, and I look at what they're coming up with, potential
It's going to be
is
an
huge.
exciting future, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you're exactly right. Well, you know, what's important to us are the small businesses. I say this all the time, that 98.6% of all businesses are small,
Yeah.
defined by the number of employees, which is under 100. However, what a lot of people don't know when I say that is actually 70% of them, so about 68.5% of all businesses, are 10 employees or less. These are all micro, small businesses. They're not multimillionaires. These are people that are making an okay living, not crushing it, but they're making an okay living. And they're employing people, and they're helping families, and they're really the backbone of our fundraising efforts in the community, and you know they do all kinds of things
Yeah.
for our community. What will the New Democratic Party do for small businesses?
I think that we really have to look again at what we're doing. We seem to love to give big breaks to big companies.
Yeah, we do.
We seem to give a lot of money to these companies that have money and are also taking the money out of Canada
Yeah.
to multinationals. I think we need to start looking at what we are doing for small and possibly medium-sized businesses, because this is the background.
Yeah,
80% of all the businesses we have are small.
yeah.
So, again, it's about priorities and choices. We can choose to give 99-year leases and millions of dollars to a spa. Or we could, I don't know, develop our science center.
Yeah.
We could, you know, develop some form of, I mean, we have, you know, butterfly places, we have
Yeah.
lion safari,
Yeah.
we have all kinds of things in this community that, my goodness, if we were really, you know, showing off to the world at what we have here, they would come. How about if we, you know, partnered that we were a place that people could come to and do conferences, for instance. And we had all this strip of hotels, and they all came together and did things.
Yeah.
And they had partners with different small events. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I do Rhythm and Blues Cambridge, and we survive because the small businesses out there
Yep.
that are often, you know, 2 people, 3 people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. A lot
But,
of
you
them.
know, they sponsor us, they bring things to us, they do things as we do it with them, we introduce them to people, we put them on our website, people go, oh, I didn't know that was there. You know, it's give and take and help. And, you know, maybe our government needs to think
Yeah,
about things
yeah.
in that way.
Kind of talking my business, I would love Cambridge to get a conference center, but, well, maybe someday we will.
But at this point in Cambridge, we actually have enough hotels
Oh, yeah, we do,
in
yep.
a small
Yeah.
area. We have the arenas,
Mm-hmm.
we have the fields. There is no reason it can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it means somebody has to take charge.
Yeah.
And it also means that there has to be input from the different levels of government
Mm-hmm. No question.
to encourage that business. But that's a business that can grow
Yeah,
hugely. Sports, tourism is huge.
yeah.
And we have it
Well,
all.
obviously, people like to come here because Handmaid's Tale has been filming downtown, you know, and will be all
Did you
all
notice
weekend
that they're
long.
always filming when there is an election?
Yeah, well, that's right. That's good. Maybe it's because the streets are clear. I don't know. But I guess it's quite a production because our physician recruitment
Yes.
coordinator was out yesterday with a visiting doctor looking to relocate, and they had trouble getting around
Yes.
because they were in the middle of filming. But that's nice. That's good stuff. It kind of puts us on the
Yes,
map
it
a little
does.
bit, and it's wonderful stuff. Marjorie, I want to give you a couple seconds here, minutes here, to really speak to the voter and tell them why they should support you.
I think the one thing that you can depend on when it comes to me is that I'm going to work hard. And I'm going to be working for the benefit of the people of my city and my province, but specifically my city. We have some problems here. We're generating homelessness. We are becoming intolerant to people who are from away. We have a problem around our health care and having access to health care. And these are things that are near and dear to my heart, and they're near and dear to the values of the Ontario NDP. I am an accessible person. I am always open to discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problems with people agreeing or not agreeing with me. What is important is the discourse and the conversation and the ability for us to come to an agreement on how we can move forward. Because of one thing I am sure, it's only together that we'll be able to move forward and get to where we need to go.
Yeah.
So, that is me.
Well, we've always had great discussions anytime we've had the chance to do that. It's
Yes.
always nice to see you and go to events and we run into each
Yes,
other, and
we
I think
do.
it's wonderful. Or we hear you on the Mike Farwell show every now and again. That's
Yes.
always kind of fun as well. But, of course, the important date is February 27th. Everybody's got to get out and vote.
Yes.
They can go to elections.on.ca and they can see where their polling station is or whatever,
Yes.
and get some, actually, you can register on there to vote by mail as well. So,
Yes.
and maybe at this time of the year, there might be a lot more people wanting to do that rather than,
There is that.
because we don't know, I don't know whether you know or not. I'm not quite sure what the weather's going to be like on February the 27th, but all I can tell you is the chances are
It'll snow.
it'll snow. So, in any event, Marjorie, all the best through the election.
Thank you.
I know you enjoy doing this as well from a personal perspective because you get to meet so many people.
Yes.
And I think it's wonderful, and I thank you very much for putting your name forward, but also standing up for our community always. So
We have to.
good luck
Thank you.
and enjoy the campaign.
I will.
There we go.